Hi, my name is Heather Campbell. I am a student at Grand Canyon University, secondary education with a concentration of English major. I am doing the disposition to teach video presentation assignment. Question 1 is, what dispositions do you possess to make yourself a successful teacher? I believe that I have a very strong personality. I am able to take control of the classroom very easily, but also with a very nurturing and loving attitude for my students. I have been working in the education field for multiple years now, so I have been doing this for quite some time. I've worked at all different levels, but I have been working in secondary education for the past 6 to 8 years now in middle school, and now I'm currently working at high school level. Most of my students are bigger than me. I'm 4'11", but I have never seemed to have a problem controlling a classroom with a large group of students in it. But I always seem to have a great rapport with my students and seem to be able to gain their trust very easily, and we seem to have a great time in class and always get our assignments done and reach all of the goals that we set out to reach. So I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to continue to do that, although I'm sure that I have lots of room to grow on. My mentor teachers are very, very helpful in all kinds of different areas. And I've been learning a lot from them, and I'm so appreciative of everything that they have to teach me. Attributes that dispositions that I need to work on before entering the classroom as a first year teacher. Before I get my very own classroom all on my own, the thing that I need to work on the most is time management. I tend to lose track of time when I'm working on things in my classroom with my students, or get lost in emails or grading papers or with a parent teacher conference, and I tend to lose track of time, and then I feel like I'm very rushed and trying to get things done, and then I seem to be flustered and not as relaxed as I would like to be when I'm going into my next task or duty. Um, Attributes a professional educator should have and how they should behave, and standards to guide their thinking and actions. I think that a professional educator needs to be very flexible, like Gumby. Things can change at a moment's notice, be it a fire drill or anything else. You never know what's going to happen during the course of your day, and you need to be able to roll with those punches, and you need to be able to adjust what you're doing and then be able to get back on track after that, if at all possible. If not, then you need to be able to pull something else out of your bag of tricks with whatever time you have left, and pick back up on whatever you were working on before the next day or whenever time allows. You could also run into a situation with a student, where, a student becomes ill or has to, go to a different classroom or something like that, and has to stop in the middle of an assignment or project, and you need to be able to be flexible to deal with that, and be very patient. That's an extremely important attribute, is patience. Not every child works at the same pace as every other. Not every child comprehends things at the same level or learns in the same way. Some children learn hands-on, some children learn, reading or other visual ways. Every child is different, and you need to be patient with that. You need to be able to adjust your lesson plans so that you can have success for each one of your students that are in your classroom. Your disposition for your students can negatively and positively affect your classroom at a moment's notice. If you are having problems at home and you bring that into your classroom, your children in your classroom are going to feed off of that in an instant. If you're stressed out and upset, your students are going to see that, and they're going to feed off of that almost instantaneously. So if you're having a personal issue, you have to be able to leave that at your classroom door. And the same thing as when you come home. You can't bring your, issues that you may be having at school, be it with coworkers or, a difficult case at school. You can't bring that home either. You have to be able to compartmentalize things that are going on in your life and know when it is appropriate to deal with those things and when it's not. Your students cannot be held responsible for what you have going on outside of the classroom, and they are not responsible for anything that you have going on other than what you're dealing with them at the time. And how will I uphold the expectations of the profession, including the code of ethics and professional standards of practice and relevant laws and policies? I know from experience, I have taught in South Carolina and I have taught in West Virginia, and the laws in all three of those states have been extremely different, which was very shocking to me. So I know that it's extremely important to stay up on those laws, and especially as times change, it's important to know the things that have changed within your district as well as within your state, according to what is going on with the times. You have different trainings and things that you have to do all of the time. I know where I am now, it's 30 hours a year of training that you have to do, and if you keep up on those trainings and everything, then you should be able to stay relevant with what is going on and what your expectations are as far as code of ethics and different laws and safety standards and trainings and things like that. As far as code of ethics, there's always a basic rule of thumb is, no social media interaction, no personal relationships in the workplace or out of the workplace with students or parents of students. I know sometimes when you're like me and you live in a small town, it's hard to not know the parents of your students sometimes, but you really have to draw a line of, knowing that you cannot discuss your students' cases with people. You can't mention your students' names, post pictures on your social media of anything that goes on at work. I know personally, I don't have anybody that I work with or any of my students or my students' friends on my social media. I actually have a completely separate social media for things that I do outside of work, so that none of those things ever were to entangle with each other. Just because I used to be on a TV show, so I had a lot of followers, and so I had to build a different social media profile that was just for my personal friends and family, so that nothing ever crossed over in my personal and professional life. And as far as promoting healthy moral development in students in my future classroom, I already try to practice that. I have a poster up in my classroom right now that I purchased at a teaching supply store, and it's what I like to call life skills. I don't call it necessarily morals or moral development. It has several words on it like empathy and responsibility and accountability. There's many more words, but we talk about these words in class all the time, from things like just being on time to class. That's a responsibility, and it's, you're accountable for whether or not you're going to be on time to places. Things like encouragement and how we can encourage each other to do our very best, and, just things like that. And I try to teach my kids these things in class all of the time. My situation is a little bit different because I do teach special needs right now. So they have a little bit of a different comprehension level than a general ed class would. But on this wall, I have this poster hanging, and I have a little container full of Post-it notes and a pen, and my students are allowed to, at their will, without any prompting from me, to go get a Post-it note and post it up on the board with a classmate's name and an act of one of these life skills that they might see a classmate or sometimes even a teacher practicing. So for instance, the other day, one of my students came to school with their laptop not charged and did not bring their laptop charger to school. So therefore that child was not prepared for class and had to raise their hand and say, "Miss Campbell, I'm sorry, but my laptop is dead, so I can't do my English assignment." And I said, "Okay, well then get your charger out and plug it in. You can work on your assignment while it's charging." And she said, "Well, I don't have my charger either." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, whose responsibility is that?" And she said, "Mine." And so she actually put her own name up on the board and said that she was not being accountable for her own responsibilities, which I thought was kind of funny. But they also do positive things, like, another time a student out in the hallway dropped some books, and I had another student go run out to help the student pick up books. So a classmate wrote his name up on the board and put, helped a friend pick up the books from the hallway. And that was friendship that he was, exhibiting at that point. So I try to teach these things in different ways. We also have a student store that the kids work at during lunch to sell little school supplies and snacks and things like that. That teaches them, a certain responsibility and accountability and things like that, to try to, teach them what they're going to be dealing with out in the real world, hopefully someday. My students are with me from the time they're 14 to 21, so they're with me a little bit longer than a general student is, so I do have them a little bit for a longer period of time in their lives than most general students are in a classroom. And my kids do not change classes. They're with me all day long, so I have them for a full 9 hours a day. I'm blessed that way, that I get to know my students a little bit more than a normal teacher gets to spend with their students, I guess. But I enjoy it, and I'm really excited about going further in my journey and being independent in my classroom and not having to report to team teachers and, things like that. And I appreciate the opportunity that GCU is giving me to further my education to do that. Thanks. Bye-bye.